as far as scientifically. Cardiovascular arena is the most supported, most abundantly out of all of the different systems. And in our study at UMKC, we showed a significant reduction in blood pressure. I mean, having just come from pharma, and I was actually working on some antihypertensives, and every single one that we brought to market had side effects. I was like, oh my gosh, we just did this just sitting in the sauna for 30 minutes and there's no side effects.
So let's start with your family's rather dramatic healing experience with infrared therapy and how it led you to ultimately create Sunlighten.
Yeah, so over 25 years ago, so crazy to think that my brother was chronically ill and he was young, and it was debilitating and really hard on the family to watch somebody you love go through such a horrible, horrible situation where he didn't have any answers. And it really wasn't until he went to the dentist, and his what I call the most progressive dentist, ever in the 90s said to him, Jason, I think that what's happening, I think the reason you are so sick, he had chronic fatigue and heavy, just really like heavy pain, vertigo. And he said, I think what's going on is the mercury from your amalgam fillings is leaking into the body. And I think that's what's causing all of this. And if you can find a way to get that mercury out and lighten the load, I think that you're going to notice how, a significant difference. And so then they had this conversation, well, how in the world can, do that? So he, mentioned a couple different options. And he said, but there's this other that's more like non-invasive that I've been reading about. It was called infrared. And it's a type of energy that can potentially detoxify the body and do it in a very safe, natural, easy way. And so that's what my brother did. Changed his life. He bought an infrared sauna. At the time, there was just only one available, and it slowly but surely, it took a long time. So we've evolved a lot since then, but it slowly but surely changed his life. And I had the good fortune. I was in St. Louis at the time, and so was he. And I was able to watch the transformation. And it was like a light bulb moment, right? Where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something that's, natural, safe. You can use in the comfort of your own home. You can do it while you're not doing anything else. It's not hard work, and you can do it without side effects. And at that same time, I was launching my career at Procter & Gamble in the pharmaceutical side of the business. And so I was immersed. I mean, I'm kind of an all-in type person. And so I was all into pharmaceuticals and reading everything I could and being on every nonprofit foundation, everything to help people. Well, my mission was to help people live healthier lives. And I thought I was doing that, through P&G, and I wanted people to feel as great as they could. And then I started doing research on infrared. I thought, oh my goodness, there's something here that is available in Asia, but there's no science that has been brought over to the United States. And if somebody could do that and bring it over and make it a little bit more efficient, make it more effective, we would have something that could cure, situations versus just being Band-Aids, which is what I was doing. I was doing it to the best of my ability, but that, every medication that we brought forward, every single one had side effects, right? Every single one. It's because it changes the body. And so there's sacrifices you have to give up. And with infrared, there were no sacrifices. You just got in, felt better, and lived a better life.
Powerful story. I think about what your brother went through. What's the alternative? Yanking all of my teeth out? God, no,
I know. And even then, because he did change all the fillings, but that process alone, right? That process alone caused the release. And then mercury is, as I'm sure, everybody who follows you is, aware. I mean, that is just one of the heaviest metals. It is extremely, extremely difficult once you get that in your body, in different ways. And if you're not living a really good, well-balanced, detoxifying, lifestyle, it's going to stay in your body and you're going to, not feel very good. So I'm thrilled that the dentist was progressive and brought it to his attention because it changed his life. And, that's what we're focusing on now.
Mercury poisoning is very scary. That was a big part of Mark Hyman's journey. He went through the ringer. He couldn't get off the floor. This was probably decades ago, if I remember. But you hear him talk about it, just god awful.
Yes, in fact, that was one of the reasons he found us back. So we're on 2025. So we have been working with Dr. Hyman for 20 years. Isn't that hard to believe? But it was because of all this heavy metals and mercury poisoning. And I don't know if you know Dr. Jeff Spencer. He's one of my favorite people. But he had also mercury poisoning. And then somebody told him, this is, I mean, forever ago, hey, Sunlighten has this, technology and they can really help do it without doing chelation and without doing other things and just in a safe, naturally efficient way. And so those are two people that early on, we met because of my brother's story.
Very powerful. And I think in today in 2025, just I think more people are attuned to kind of the toxic load that we're all carrying, which is the cost of living. Today, unfortunately, it's just the cost of living.
Right. You go outside, there's nothing you can do about it.
But let's talk about infrared. So what is infrared sauna and how does it work?
Yeah. So infrared is something everybody is familiar with, even though they may not think they are, because it comes directly from the sun. So it's part of the sun's light spectrum. It is a band of 3 different wavelengths that consist of both heat and light. And I always like to reference it as energy medicine because it is energy that's being transferred and received into the body and absorbed into the body. And the 3 different wavelengths are all absorbed differently, which we can talk about. We don't have to go deep into the science, but it is important for people to understand that infrared is broken down into several different parts. And it is, felt through the body through that feeling, when you walk outside and it's cloudy and then all of a sudden the sun peeks out and it's like in an instant gratification. You feel instantly different. You're like, oh, wow, you didn't even realize you needed that. You're like, oh, God, that felt so good. You just want to stand there for a moment and like soak in that feeling. That's infrared. That's the feeling of the infrared energy being absorbed into the body and starting to work with the cells. So it's very different from traditional heat, which we could talk about. It's just, it's completely the way it works with the body and the cells is in a different way than regular heat.
And so what are some of the differences between infrared sauna, say, from dry sauna?
Yeah. So traditional, I call them traditional or dry. We'll use your language. The dry sauna heats the air. So get hot when you walk in, you get hot because the air is hot. And then you'll start to sweat or you'll start everything from then on is because that air is hot. Infrared passes the middleman, passes the air and works directly with the body. So it's a completely different mechanism of action. And again, if you just kind of envision, it's all about the energy and that energy transfer being absorbed, that those rays of light and those rays of heat being absorbed into your cells. And literally they start changing the structure of your cells. They start changing your water molecules. Dr. Bland always talks about your water molecules literally start dancing, when infrared energy is absorbed into them because they're starting to vibrate and move around. And that movement and that flow of energy is what causes so many phenomenal benefits. And it causes people to, for example, like my brother, to, have such intense transformations because with all that movement, that mercury that was trapped and stuck inside his body now has different pathways and now has different ways to be released through the body, either through sweat or through urine, through blood, like different ways it can be removed. But infrared is the conductor, right? It's like the orchestra, it's the one that's allowing the direction and allowing the flow to happen and to get all of that transformation that's so needed.
And so for a standard sauna that's dry, you typically find like coals that if you touch, you'll burn yourself. I'm assuming the temperatures are significantly higher. Can you talk about some of those differences in terms of coals for sure for source and then like the temperature differences?
Yeah, so dry saunas, there's also steam, there's traditional hot rocks, coals. All of those operate in the same way. Their temperature typically is around the same. It's typically around 170, 180, and then north of that. And temperature for those saunas is really important because that's how you're receiving the heat, right? So it's important that you have particular temperatures. I call it like temperature. It's a unit of measurement for dry saunas and steam saunas and cold saunas, because that's how you know if you're going to get it hot, because if the air is not hot, then you're not going to get hot, because that's where the heat exists. With infrared, it operates at much lower temperatures because we're bypassing the air and we're working directly with the body. And so the energy being absorbed once the light and heat energy, because there's two different types with infrared, once that is absorbed into your cells, then that's when you start to immediately get the transformation and the movement. So you eventually start to feel hot. But when you walk in, you're never going to feel like that. The feeling's never going to be the same as a cold sauna or as a dry rocks. And you're just not going to get that, that kind of little bit of just like that burst of hot air, because the energy is going into your body.
In my experience, it's a lot more enjoyable to infrared, specifically yours. I just, and it's the experience is more relaxing, and there's this feeling of rejuvenation, where on the contrary, in my experience, the traditional sauna, kind of walk out feeling like, oh God, I need to give me some electrolytes right now. Like, give me something. That was intense. It's just an entirely different experience. But the reason I love infrared, and specifically what you do at Sunlighten, is there's also the science around infrared sauna's benefits. Can we walk through some of the benefits?
Sure. So let's start with detox, since we kind of started at the top with detoxification. And there's just phenomenal studies on how infrared promotes detoxification. And there's also a study, since we just talked about traditional and infrared and the differences, there's a study called the BUS study, blood, urine, sweat study, that compares exercise, traditional saunas, and infrared, and talks about the removal of heavy metals such as mercury, lead, cadmium, aluminum, as well as other types of toxic substances. And the end result, the summary, is that infrared does a better job of removing all of those toxins. And specifically, one of the most powerful parts of that study was that the sweat piece of the study was super, super powerful. Meaning that when everybody was going through the study, they were measuring, like, for example, take mercury, their mercury in their blood. And there was one particular piece where none of the participants had mercury in their blood. However, a lot of those participants, when they measured their urine, had mercury in their urine. So that's the power of how much sweat can help detoxify the body, and the importance of removing toxins, through sweat. I mean, the toxins can be removed lots of different ways, and infrared helps with all of the different systems, but the sweat aspect is pretty powerful. So detoxification is, and we did a study, well, not Sunlighten, but it was with our sauna. It was University of Missouri, Kansas City, that did a study years and years ago it was the concept, the theory of the study was just in general, does infrared have health benefits? And one of the benefits that came out of that was detoxification and the removal of arsenic specifically. There was somebody who was shocked. They didn't know they had arsenic in their body. But at the end of the study, it was all gone when they found out they had been using the Sunlighten study, because it was a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized, intense. I had just come off from P&G, just had to apply all that pharmaceutical knowledge. Never again will I go through something that rigorous. But it was great because it proved a very important concept, which is toxin removal. The other thing it proved, while we're on that topic, is the whole heart health category. So cardiovascular benefits. This, out of all of the different benefits, as far as scientifically, the cardiovascular arena is the most abundant you're supported, most abundantly out of all of the different systems. The heart health, it just goes, it's mind-boggling when you look at all of the data, because you have your United States data now. You also have the data in Asia that existed like right when we started Sunlighten. And in our study at UMKC, we showed a significant reduction in blood pressure, which having just come from pharma, and I was actually working on antihypertensives, and every single one that we brought to market had side effects. I was like, oh my gosh, we just did this. You could just sitting in the sauna for 30 minutes and there's no side effects. And in fact, you felt even better than before. So detox, heart health, inflammation, lots of great science supporting the reduction of inflammation. And we know inflammation is the number one cause of aging. Mood, and this is important especially for women, mood, boosting mood and mental health. There's studies on depression and showing a significant increase or decrease, I guess is a better way to say it, significant decrease in depression status. Sleep, weight loss, and then skin, especially when you combine all of the wavelengths, because there's significant benefit with red light, near infrared, combining that with far and mid, with the entire infrared spectrum. Just the boosting of the collagen and the elastin and the detoxification through sweat, you just get like a beautiful, beautiful glow in your skin. And it really does help to slow down the clock and help you. If nothing else, it helps you feel so much better. I always say, if there was a clinical study on energy production, in a Sunlighten sauna, we would get a 10 out of 10. So you can't have a tool that gives you more energy scientifically as well as just physically when you get done. Like, as you said, when I get out of, a rock sauna, I'm just like, I'm beat, and I get out of my sauna and I'm like, let's go. I have so much more energy, and that's been proven scientifically, but I also think, I know that the flow, the increased oxygenation to the brain that happens when you're inside a Sunlighten sauna, that helps to get rid of the mind, chatter and the mental fog, clear that up, and then it's like emptying out the trash in your head, right there on your computer. You delete the trash and then you get all this new room, for new concepts and new information. So those are some. We're not limiting to in some of all of that. There's more science out there, but those are some of the key benefits. I didn't say pain relief as well. That's huge.
Jason Walkup here, founder and co-CEO of mindbodygreen and the host of the mindbodygreen podcast. Please subscribe. You'll never miss a show and you won't regret it. It is huge. And just to spend a moment on a couple. So heart health, Dr. Joel Kahn has been singing the praises of sauna and Sunlighten specifically for years. He's a fantastic cardiologist. And then I follow Dr. Ashley Mason as well on social media. She's been posting a lot recently about mental health on some of her studies. And that's like, if you think about mental health and heart health, what's good, that's pretty compelling from a longevity perspective.
Yes, 100%. And the mental, we could have a whole show about that, as far as there's so many elements to using, a Sunlighten infrared sauna and the brain. There's so much there, both with red light and near infrared and far infrared, like all the different wavelengths. And then also just knowing that when I go in, I'm going to feel better. It's that whole mental confidence. When you do something and it's like, okay, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to press, the detox button, and I am going to feel better when I get done. So there's just so many connections to improving your brain function, improving your mood, which is, to me, one of the key factors to living a, more fulfilled life, and to not only living longer, but really enjoying the way you feel while you're living.
Well, what's so great, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a practice you feel great during it and then after, and then ultimately there are these incredible longevity benefits. And I think we've come so far, you've mentioned energy, infrared is energy. And we've come far in terms of understanding cellular health and mitochondria and the relation that plays in terms of, our anti-aging, essentially cellular repair. We turn over cells, anti-aging in terms of aesthetics, how we look, our skin appearance, and ultimately how fast or how slowly we age. internally, and we also like externally slowing that down. And so could we spend a moment and talk about this bigger theme of cellular health and how infrared really fits in there in such a impactful way?
Yeah, this is such a, pardon the pun, hot topic right now with everybody. I mean, there's so many tests to measure things, which is which I love. Like, I'm just like in my like playhouse. I'm just like, this is so great that people are really, wanting to hear, how can I improve my mitochondria? And so when it comes to longevity, infrared really impacts, significantly our cellular health. And there's a lot of data about there's being 10 hallmarks of aging, and 5 of those, so 50% of the 10, infrared significantly impacts. And mitochondria is one. Mitochondria dysfunction will definitely change the way you age and will like accelerate the way you age. And infrared helps to make more cell engines. It helps to repair the cell engines, which is your mitochondria. It just makes your mitochondria function more effectively. It also helps with cellular senescence. This is, that if you've heard of zombie cells, these are cells that as we age, they change in function, and they tend to hang around instead of, go on their merry way. They'll just hang out, and infrared kind of helps. We call it the zombie slayer. It just kind of gets them going, gets them out, has cellular cleanup, so that way you can improve your cellular function. Inflammation is one of the hallmarks of aging. Infrared activates a gene inside the body that helps to regulate and control inflammation. So that's significant. So that helps to slow down, as well as red and near light as well. Gut is important. Gosh, gut is so important to aging. And infrared helps gut health through detoxification, as well as reducing inflammation in the gut. And then finally, the last hallmark of aging are stem cells, and the vitality of our stem cells, the importance of making sure that, they're repaired and regenerated, and infrared helps with all of that. So one tool helps with 50% of the hallmarks of aging. So it's like a whole body longevity hack that you can have in your home.
And you can sit down and do it.
Yeah. And then you can habit stack too. We didn't even talk about that. That's I don't know if it's a guy thing or a girl thing, but I love to go in and how many things can I get done inside my Sunlighten, that's good for me, that makes me feel good, not necessarily work, but like things that boost my energy.
So on that note, you mentioned, is it a guy thing or a girl thing? Any research on benefits in terms of hormonal health transitions like perimenopause or menopause?
Dr. Taz has done a lot of research on infrared helping with hormone health, and so has Sarah Gottfried, Dr. Gottfried. There's been a lot of research on females and helping with thyroid, and improving the health of your thyroid and improving hormonal balance, and a lot of it comes down to like very simple stuff, which is helping to promote detoxification. Because what happens a lot of times, especially as we age and hormones start to change, people then start to put other things in their body, that if their body isn't in a state where it's being able to consistently just naturally detoxify, right? And that like you're be able to, your bucket, so many people, their toxin bucket is overflowing. And so then they put more stuff in, and it just overflows more and leaks in. And then you get into this hormonal like mess. And one of the ways that infrared can really help, specifically, obviously, with women is, to balance all of that and to make sure through detoxification that you're cleaning the body out, your gut, you just have a really clean environment, so that when you put other stuff in that's hopefully clean, you're not harming the body. So I know on the male side, there's a lot of research with all the parts of infrared on nitric oxide and helping with, nitric oxide production, and which a lot of men, tend to like the increase in nitric oxide. I don't need to go any further than that. But so that helps, on the male side. I do know on the being a female and having a network of women who have our sauna and use it, the happiness piece we'll call it happiness because it really is a happy place. And people always say to me, they're like, "Hi, Connie, I love my sunlight. This is my happy place. And I'm so much, I can go in there." Like Leanne Rhymes always talks about, she's like, "I can go into my sunlight and sauna and I'm in a dark, dark state, dark place, so stressed, so many things on my mind. And I go in and then I come out and I'm like, oh, the world's a happy place. This is my happy box." So it's that, which is really important for women because I mean I know both genders take on a lot, and it just seems as though women, it put extra pressure, especially with being a mom and if they're in the workforce and being a wife and being a daughter. A lot of women are in that sandwich part of their life where they're taking care of their kids and they're also taking care of their parents.
And nitric oxide specifically, I also think is so key for women in that essentially it supports a healthy cardiovascular system with blood pressure. And as women are going through perimenopause and menopause with some of those fluctuations, that's when cardiovascular problems can start to come up. And it's, and I think women are also, cardiovascular disease shows up in different ways with women. It's not so traditional with men, like, oh, I've got the pain in my chest. Like, it's a lot more subtle with women. It's a lot more dangerous. And that's something I think people are becoming a lot more aware of.
Yes. And on that note, there's some great data. So people that want to dig deeper, you can just search on WAON therapy. It's WAON. It stands for Soothing Warmth Therapy. That was founded in Asia. But specifically, when you talk about cardiovascular health, there's so many studies that are so powerful on how infrared in short doses. That's another difference between infrared and traditional we didn't talk about earlier. But you don't need to stay in there a ton of time. You can get this transfer of energy into your body, being absorbed into the body in a short amount of time. And the WAON therapy did only 15 minutes. And they showed a significant benefit on the cardiovascular system, people with chronic heart failure, as well as, this is my point with women, is because there's a study showing the quality of life scores improved. So there was the physical component, but then there was also the mental component. And then there was also exercise capacity. So they measured people who used infrared and didn't use infrared and did 6-minute walks. And they found that the people after infrared, they could walk, their distance was so much farther than people who didn't, use infrared. And then, whenever you have something like that, I always go back to the mental aspect because it's when you find out, oh my goodness, I just was able to walk faster because I did this. There's a mental component that you're like, hey, good for me. I am powerful. I am strong. I can now do things that I couldn't do before. And I know that part of what we do every day at Sunlighten is probably one of my favorite parts because it's just like putting yourself in a position that's empowering where you can take control, and you can do it in a very safe, natural, easy way, in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah. And you can habit stack, and it's a great way to get a quick win every day. It becomes a non-negotiable.
Yeah. You can read, you can listen to this podcast, you can meditate, you can do deep breathing, intention setting, goals. I mean, you can do it all. Stretching, yoga.
I love it. So you mentioned doses. What are the best practices in terms of duration, frequency, temperature, any differences between male and female in your experience?
Yeah, so I would recommend if somebody is new to this and they're getting inside their Sunlight and sauna for the first time, think of it as like your newest, which is going to be your most favorite, but your like newest and wellness routine, and you want to start low and slow, and get your body used to it because your body hasn't experienced infrared in this manner before, and so best practices are, get in, start 15 minutes. And see how you feel, and then you can always, increase from there. But it's important that this is not a wellness routine where it's about intensity. Sunlighten's infrared sauna is about consistency. So consistency wins over intensity every single time. So the more consistent you can be, and you don't have to do it for an hour, by any means, but if you're consistent, it's going to be a habit that you're going to keep, and you're going to be a habit that you're going to find a time every single day or every other day, however your lifestyle lends to, that you can use. And the more often you use it, the more benefits you're going to feel.
So is there a minimum effective dose in your view? Is it, 3 days a week, 4 days a week? What do you think is
There is not a minimum, and here's why. Because the research shows that, like, for example, mentioned Dr. Mason, who she's modeling her studies after Dr. Razon in Wisconsin, and he did a really, really powerful depression study years ago, and with infrared heat, and he found that in only one session, that the significant reduction in depression symptoms, decreased, and it lasted up to 6 weeks. So there is no, minimum obviously would be one, right? But I do know, as far as if you're listening and you want to get all these energy benefits and you want, the cardiovascular benefits, and especially if you're looking for, like, weight loss, where the way it helps with weight loss is by helping to increase your caloric burn. So those types of benefits, then you're going to want to do, more often. I would, if you're looking for those, I will give you a guide. 3 to 4 times a week is a really good place to be. That's a winning formula that you can do a minimum of 15 minutes. If you can go 30 to 40, great. You'll, enjoy, it even there seems to be, in my experience, I call it the tipping point. I don't know if you run, or when I run, there's a tipping point of where I go from, oh my gosh, like, this is so hard on my body and this is so painful, to, oh my gosh, I could just keep going forever and ever. There's just like this point, and it differs every single time I run. But in the sauna, typically it's around that 20 to 30-minute time frame, where all of a sudden your body just, it's like that energy is all connected, and you can stay in there, and you just don't really want to get out. And that's a great feeling.
And so how do you think about pre and post sauna hydration, nutrition to maximize your session and ultimately benefits?
Yes. So pre and post, the number one thing that I can tell everybody, really the non-negotiable on both pre and post, is hydration. So important. And this is really, that's why I use the word energy medicine, because this is more than just like this luxury thing that you have in your home. This has been scientifically proven, and we've been doing this for over 20 years, and the science supports all the hallmarks of aging, the 5 hallmarks of aging. So it's working with your cells, and it's doing it obviously in a really, enjoyable way, but the flow and the increase and the transformation does make a change on the body. You need to make sure you support that change through adequate hydration, both before and after. Before is important because you want to start to get the body, hydrated, before you take the session, and then of course afterwards for obvious reasons. The other important factor that I recommend post is managing your electrolytes. So that's really important, and I mean, I've done so much research in the past couple of years on people, on everybody's, sodium and their chloride and their potassium, magnesium, and like, it just changes. And that's also something that changes, as we age and as our cells change. And when you do things that are even though it's a passive cardiovascular conditioning tool, it's still, the energy is very active on the body. And so you are having that movement and that flow and that release. And so you can lose electrolytes. And so you need to replenish the body. Some people recommend binders, as well, to help just promote the detoxification aspect. So that's another thing that you can do as well. So but to make it simple, water, electrolytes, you're good to go.
I'll have to send you our electrolytes with creatine product after this show.
Oh, I would love that.
I'm curious, do you like eating after or before? Or do you like distance?
Distance.
Okay.
But to put it in context, I am a morning Sunlighten user. So I like to do my exercise, and then I like to end with my Sunlighten, and I have my my water with lemon in there, and then afterwards I have a lot of times my green juice, but I won't eat. I definitely won't eat before, and there's definitely a delay in after as well.
So you go straight from working out to the sauna and then start to begin your day. Got it. Makes sense.
Exactly.
What's been so interesting is you've been doing this for quite some time, and the science has evolved, the product has evolved, and it's beautiful. And we're at such an interesting time with technology. Where are we today in terms of infrared sauna technology, and where do you think we're going? What are you excited about?
Oh, that's a great question. So today we are at, and I'll brag a little bit on Impulse because I just feel like I said, it's a whole body longevity hack. It's just the most amazing evolution of a product. We started Impulse, gosh, what was that? So Oprah was 2009. So 2010, we introduced Impulse. And what Impulse is, the only product on the market that separates the infrared spectrum into three, at that time, three, now four, three completely different wavelengths. And each wavelength has a different frequency that we know on science that we need to have in order to be absorbed into the body and to get the benefits that are associated with that wavelength. So Impulse separates it and isolates it, delivers maximum amount to the body, and then we've developed programs. So we have 6 preset programs that find a way to blend those wavelengths at different intervals and different pulsations, again, based on science and the benefit you're trying to achieve. So that's like where we're at today. And now to just to build on, because in 2010, Impulse did not have red light. We launched with near infrared, which is the invisible part of the spectrum. Red light is right next to near on the spectrum, and it has red light. And so we recently, in the past couple of years, have included red light. So now Impulse is the only one that has all 4 separately, as well as the 6 preset programs. So you just press, if you want cardio benefits, you press cardio. You want pain relief, you want anti-aging, detox, relaxation, weight loss. One of those programs, you press the button, and then the sauna is already, the brains start to work, and you start to feel the results of those benefits. So that's a great place to be. That's where we are today. And I love that sauna. It's called the Impulse Smart Sauna. We have others, just so people don't think that that's the only choice. There's plenty of others to choose from. As far as going forward, what I'm excited about is I'm loving the fact that people are starting to, like Function Health, Dr. Hyman, that people are starting to care about their biomarkers. They're starting to test. They're starting to test for their mitochondria. They're starting to care about their quality of sleep. They're starting to care about what impacts their quality of sleep. They're starting to care about heart rate variability. They're starting to care about longevity. So that gets me excited, so that we can take this, one step further, which is getting connected to all of those wearables and getting connected to all those tests, and just connecting. Connected wellness, is what I'm excited about. Infrared being one of the key spokes to that, and to engaging us where we're at and providing solutions so that we don't have to think. Because what's happening now is we're getting all this data. Where I can't wait to take us is, so I know, this biomarker, but now what do I do about it? And somebody just tell me what to do, give me the tools to impact my biomarker. So the next time I take it, it's, in the green zone, or my sleep, is horrible. But I don't know what to do about it. So that's where I feel like we come in and can, with all of our connections and resources and, companies like yourself, and we can all work together to provide our community the answers to, here's what you do about it. Here's the easy button.
Yes. And to me, it's such a no-brainer in that if the highest level of cardiovascular disease is still the number one killer in America, and the science is tried and true. So if you're concerned about cardiovascular health, no-brainer, absolutely need to do this. Then you talk about, in my view, the toxic load is just the cost of living in 25, no matter what you do. Our listeners are probably doing all the right things. They're trying to avoid, excessive plastic, and they read ingredient labels and they look for forever chemicals, but no matter what you do, it's going to happen. I'm sorry, unless you live in the middle of nowhere, it's just, and you start to do, and sometimes they don't show up in labs. You just start to feel crappy, and you go to a doctor and they're like, oh, you're fine. And so to me, that's a big one that I think is pervasive. And then you touch on some of the, new science. Ashley Mason's work is really incredible. I think she's at UCSF. Talk about mental health, mood boosting, you touch on longevity, skin health. Who doesn't want to look good as they age. Mitochondrial dysfunction is essentially going to kill you. And so kind of hit on everything. And so it's exciting.
Well, thank you. I love what I do. And, I mean, our brand promise at Sunlighten is it's really simple. We just want to help people feel better so they can do more of what they love to do, and live their fullest life. It's like, and that's what drives all of us here at Sunlighten. And we just, want to help people in whatever way we can, increase their quality of life as well as their quantity. We'll help both.
Yes. Well, we are obviously huge fans, have been fans for a long time. Personally, I'm sold. For someone listening and they're curious about infrared therapy, where should they start?
Yeah, so go to sunlighten.com, sunlighten.com, or you can call us. Our website's really easily navigated, but you can give us a call. And we have offered a significant discount for any listeners, but you do have to mention mindbodygreen. So make sure you mention mindbodygreen, and we will give you a significant discount on your purchase. Our sauna consultants are very, very knowledgeable, very passionate. They want to help. What's important for me to mention, since I talked a lot about impulse because it has all 4 wavelengths, is our consultants are knowledgeable about all of the different choices. And we have 4 different collections here. We don't just have one collection, and they meet everybody's price needs so that they're all over the board. And we have financing opportunities, and they will help you. And they ask a lot of questions so that they can find the right fit.
Well, incredible. There is a right fit for everyone. And again, we are huge fans. Congratulations. We love Sunlighten, and in our view, everyone should have one. So,
well, thank you. I've been so excited to come on. As I told you at the beginning, just a huge fan of mindbodygreen. I love what you guys are doing, because you're doing exactly what my vision is in this entire space, right? Is connecting people and providing resources and tools and elevating this wonderful space that I call, wellness category. And so, congratulations to you and Colleen and all the lives that you've changed and the work that you have done, because it's significant, and I really appreciate it.
oh, you're very kind, Connie. Thank you so much. The feeling is mutual.